Do you want to know where the money is? Ask an investor relations professional. John interviews Michael Brett, a 25-year investor relations professional. Listen why and when a private or public company needs investor relations. How Michael knows and gets to work with broker dealers, private equity investors, and family offices and gets meetings for his clients. And some of his success stories, such as adding 8,000 new investors for a client and helping a client's stock increase 1,200%. So, Michael, I'm going to ask you a few questions.
And we just try to learn a little bit about what you do in the industry, how it helps your customers, why they should do it, who is the perfect target, when do they need it, kind of the who, what, why.
Yeah, excellent questions. First off, I work with small cap public companies as well as private companies, and I provide consulting and advisory services to them if they're trying to do a equity offering, a debt offering, private placement, or a Regulation A offering, and they want to access the broker dealer community, family offices, investment banks, and placement agents. And what I do is I do the marketing, advertising, and promotion for clients in any sector. It could be oil and gas, it could be technology, could be cannabis, could be hemp. I work in all areas. I've been doing this for 25 years, and I've built up an excellent network of, again, broker dealers, investment banks, and family offices. And the reason I work with mainly the institutional side is that's where the money is. I've had great success with, the institutional side as opposed to individuals that call themselves accredited investors, retired doctors or whatever. I just find it's more successful for the client dealing with the institutional side. And the reason that a client would retain my services is because they don't know where to look. They don't really have access to investors, the investment banking community, and I provide that access. Again, I've been doing this 25 years, so I know where the money happens to be, and I know how they can access it, and so I help them along the way.
Cool. Let me just kind of get a profile of the customer. I mean, so you're not doing with startups at all.
I have in years past. I have, and I've got some investments in some startups right now that have been. I've been an investor in them for the last 10 years or 15 years.
That's nice ROI, right? 10-year waiting period.
Yeah. I guess
that answers the question.
Yeah, I tend to deal with the companies that are more seasoned, that have revenue. That seems to be the niche that a lot of investment bankers and brokers are looking for. They're not looking for the true startup that's like an idea on the back of a napkin.
So you're way past. I mean, it's not an idea. It's not an MVP. It's not a paid pilot or unpaid pilot or paid pilot. It is a company that is private or public, but producing revenue. Could it be profitable or unprofitable?
Yeah, the profitability immediately is not really that critical. It really comes down to, what's the concept? What is the business all about? Does it have a management team that can execute whatever the business model happens to be? Is there an experienced management team that can execute the plan? And can they demonstrate traction, sales, revenue to the investors? And can they identify a problem and then offer the solution? And if they've got revenue, that shows that their solution is an answer to the problem.
Yeah, the market cares.
Yes.
So that it doesn't have to be profitable, but there is some sort of traction and visibility on that profitability.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Is there a specific size? I mean, it's a 5-person company or 25. I mean, is there a sweet spot on the size of company, or is it more has to do with the revenue per employee?
Well, the kind of client that comes to me is, has either 3 to 7 people involved in the company. anything higher than that, they really don't need my service because they probably have, identified, an investment group that they could go to. So as an example, I have a tequila client, that's been a client of mine for 5 years. There are 5 principals involved with the company, raised about $15 million over the last 2.5 years, set up
Wow,
distributorships. Yeah, and set up distributorships in 30 states. We have the MGM Grand Casino in Las Vegas, all 16 casinos in Vegas. We have worldwide distribution. And, sales are about $4 million to $5 million in sales right now. This time next year will be at $22 million in sales. And again, the core, to answer your question a little more specifically, the core employee is, there are 5 people involved with the company. Other ones are outsourced as far as outside contractors.
I have a suspicion that the people running this company, have they done this before? Or
Yes.
have they worked with other beverage distributors?
Yes. One of the principals, the president of the company, has been in the alcohol beverage industry for over 40 years. He's worked for some of the major alcohol producers, distributor companies in the world, and deep respect in the industry and the community.
Yeah. Are you allowed to say the name of the tequila? Is it good?
Yeah, Tequila Comisario. Tequila Comisario. Okay. They produce the tequila in Mexico because all tequila, to be 100% agave, blue agave tequila, has to be produced in Mexico. So they distill it down there, age it down there, and then ship here in the States. And they have warehouses on the East Coast, West Coast, and then they distribute, major distributors nationwide.
The biggest tequila manufacturer, a German family.
Yeah, there's some. Most of it's got, again, it has to be produced in Mexico if you're calling yourself 100% blue agave tequila, which is what my client is. Now, having said that, there are some tequilas that are 50% of agave, and the rest of it is colored water, caramel coloring, sugar, whatever else they can make, and that can be done here in the States. Distilled here in the States and distributed.
So these guys, this 5-person company, tequila manufacturers, they are private, right?
Yes.
Okay, so how did they find you? And the next step was what are you doing for them exactly? I mean, I take it investor relations, kind of like public relations. You're trying to get the company values and mission statement and the message out to the right people. So tell me a little bit more about.
Yeah, I've known the principals of the company for over 20 years, 25 years. I have been involved with other projects that they've been involved with. So there's a deep relationship. They know me, I know them. And when I started working with them about 5 years ago to establish the brand, to establish the marketing concept of the product, getting out there and winning awards. Because, if you tell somebody, we have a tequila, everybody just kind of rolls their eyes. Oh my God, another tequila. So what you need to do initially with a beverage like that is you need to establish a market. So we went out and spent the first 4 years, winning awards, entering different contests, beating some of the other ultra premium tequilas, getting double gold. I got him in Cigar Spirits magazine. In fact, the last issue, I think it was September issue, Michael Strahan is on the cover of the magazine with the Tequila Comisario, and there's a big spread inside with the company. So I help the company with their branding, their message awareness, as you well know, I read a lot of your posts on LinkedIn. As you know, you can't get anybody interested in your company if they don't know who you are. So my function.
Thanks for the plug on that. Yeah.
Yeah. My function is to help all companies that come to me, to establish awareness.
They don't need somebody in the public relations. What you're doing replaces public relations, or it's the same.
I don't do PR in the sense, I do investor relations, marketing, awareness of the company. Now I know some people in PR, the public relations might say it's the same thing, but I've gotten my clients on Fox News, Fox Business TV. I get them interviewed on radio. So again, somebody in the PR business might say, well, that's what I do. But again, I don't position myself in that area. Mine is really to establish brand awareness, put them in contact with sources that can benefit the company, benefit the product. And again, that all comes from awareness.
What I'm trying to get at is the distinct difference. I mean, I'm from Silicon Valley, worked in a number of companies, and public relations is let's get it out there. Let's try to get an interview with a magazine or blogger or posted somewhere, and all these interviews, and then it gets press mentions. The better the press mentions, possibly and hopefully it leads to more sales. But the distinction is your press mentions are trying to persuade investors. Am I correct about that?
Yes. On the institutional side.
On the institutional side, yeah.
On the institutional side, not the individual, Joe Smith or something, but on the institutional side.
Right.
And in order to access that, you have to have a certain visibility to them. That's why I do a lot of road shows for a lot of different clients. In other words, I'll take the client to New York and I'll do a road show, lunch or dinner, and I'll bring 25 investment bankers and family office members to a lunch or dinner where only one client makes a presentation. And why? Well, first off, to show the audience who they are, what they're doing, where they're going, and how they're going to get there. And whether a client is trying to raise capital or whether they're just trying to establish a brand, it all comes down to awareness. Again, as you pointed out again on a lot of your posts, nobody can write a check, nobody can buy your product if they don't know who you are and where your product is, or how to get in touch with you. I've been in this business 25 years, and it still amazes me how some people with a product or a service just think that they can put up a website and people are just going to flock to that website and buy product. It doesn't happen.
If they build it with those come.
And I have other clients in different sectors.
When you do this for 25 years, it's not, and you say you bring on a client like this tequila company, and you say, when you make a phone call to a family office or private equity, they're going to say, hey, I'm going to take the phone call because it's Michael Brett and because he brings me good deals or he brings me good projects. And how important is that? Yeah.
It's extremely important. It's all about relationship building. They don't like, first off, nobody likes a cold, unsolicited email or a cold phone call from somebody they've never heard of, they've never done business with. And again, all the relationships I have, they know who I am, they know the quality of the deal that I have. That doesn't say they all get accepted or they all get, funded or their products all get accepted into the marketplace, but warm introductions do a lot. And if I put on a lunch or dinner in New York, in Manhattan, I get 25 brokers and investment bankers showing up, and they're not coming there just for a free meal. They're coming there because they've heard about the company either through other marketing methods that I've done, and they've read information. If it's a small cap public company, they've already accessed the SEC filings, so they know that much about it. Now they want to meet the management. They eyeball to eyeball and ask some tough questions.
I work with a guy that's out of New York that's taken 24 companies public, a couple NASDAQ, a couple New York Stock Exchange, mostly a lot of OTC stuff. But he said the word of advice, John, I need you to listen to me right now. Never bring me shit.
Yes, that's true. That's the quickest way to get somebody to hang up on you.
Yeah. So what's happens? Tell me a little bit more about, let's say somebody brings you on, they meet your criteria for being a client that will benefit from your services. What happens next? I mean, what do you start doing? How long does it take? And how do you measure your success?
That's a very good question. Let's take a small cap public company. I'll get contacted by a company that is trying to, I just signed up a client last week. It's called Global Diversified Marketing out of New York, and they distribute snacks and food snacks, biscottis, different products like that. They're a private company, but they filed an S1, which is a registration with the SEC that became effective a few months ago, and now they're looking for a placement agent to help with the S1 to buy shares, to sell shares, to raise money. So they contacted me to find them a placement. Yes. So they hired me, they retained me to find them placement agents to represent their S1. And another public company that's already trading, they retained me because they needed to get some liquidity into their stock to help them raise capital. So to measure the results is, does the stock start trading within 4 or 5 months after we do our activity? Now I'll give you an example. I had one client. It was an oil and gas client, and they hired me when their stock was 40 cents. And in 18 months, the stock went from 40 cents to $5.23.
I've had a lot of these conversations with these cannabis companies that go public on the OTC, and the worst part, or one of the worst things you could do, is fall into this trying to get noticed by these penny stock traders or these blog writers, these guys that have emails, and they say, hey, buy this stock. It goes up, 100%, 200, 500% in one day, and the next day it drops. That's not what you're doing. Yeah.
That's not what I do. Yeah, I'm not a stock promoter. What I do is, again, if it's a public company or a private company, it really doesn't matter. If the company needs exposure, if they need awareness, they come to me, and I get the awareness, I get the word out there about it. Now, I don't make buy recommendations. I don't do alerts to tell people, watch out for this company, it's going to go through the roof. That stuff never works, as you just pointed out, because it goes up and then it comes crashing down when the promotion stops. What I tell clients they need to do is they need to build long-term awareness for their company. And if they do that for the company, the stock will take care of itself. You perform on the company side, the business side, by meeting certain milestones, or revenue projections, or whatever it happens to be, and you build this long-term buying in there. It's not, like in this oil and gas client I brought in 8,000 new shareholders. They only had 500 shareholders when we started, and in 18 months I brought in 8,000 brand new shareholders. That builds a support mechanism for the company. So,
shareholders, are they minimum amounts, or?
It depends. Well, they buy in the open. These people buy in the open market. They don't necessarily buy from the company when it's a trading company. They just buy in the open market. So you can get information from the transfer agent on the shareholders that have come in. You can get it on a monthly basis, and you can see new shareholders added, what their position happens to be, how long they held the stock. So there's a mechanism right there where you can track that kind of effort. And then other companies, go ahead.
I got a question about cannabis OTC companies. And this is a problem that happens with a lot of these cannabis companies, United States cannabis companies that went public on Canadian Securities Exchange. You could have a quarter or a year that was 327% higher than the previous year. And this is, I'm referring to a specific company, but because of the lack of a number of investors in the United States, I mean Canada, there's as many people in Canada as there are people in the state of Florida. And that means there's less investors that work up there. It's just, you can do all that information, get all that broadcast out, say the brand's great, it's growing, they've got traction, great management, and nobody does anything.
Yes, you're right. And that happens to a lot of companies, not necessarily just in the cannabis. And there's a lot of factors that play into that. It could be the perception from again, if it's a public company, it's the perception. Is the company really on solid footing? Do they have an experienced management team in place that can execute on their business model? And in the cannabis space, it's relatively new, even though it's been around, maybe 5 years. And a lot of companies gone public. A lot of them have gone nowhere, as you pointed out. because, they just can't execute on their business because they just don't have the management. I was involved in one that I took it public with an associate. We took it public in Canada, got a dual listing down here in the States. But they changed management 4 times. I mean, that doesn't give confidence to anybody wanting to come into the marketplace when you have turnover in management. And I happen to be on I was a shareholder in the company. I don't want to mention the name, because I don't want anybody to think I'm promoting that particular company, but, I was a shareholder in the company, and I remember getting on a call. It was a shareholder call, and they just put in their 3rd president of the company. And the first words out of his mouth, he says, well, I want to take this opportunity to thank the board of directors for having confidence in me to bring me on as the president. But I want to tell everybody right now, I know absolutely nothing about running a public company.
That doesn't install any confidence at all.
Yeah, and then he said, but I know a lot about the Canada space because I've been in it a number of years, but I've never run a publicly traded company. And here's the guy that was just installed as president. Now, you could do all the marketing and promotion you want, but when you put out a statement like that, that does not give confidence to somebody to come in the open market and want to, get involved with that company for long term. So,
I'd say, yikes, I'm going to put my sell order in real quick.
Yeah. And that's what happened too. A lot of them did. So,
do you have a sense, this is always sports metaphors. I mean, you look at like the Cleveland Browns, Arizona Cardinals, and you know what? Arizona Cardinals team announces they're going to get a new coach. Great. You know what? It doesn't matter. It's like, it almost has to be a new owner from the start. Like Jerry Jones comes into the Cowboys a long time ago and says, look, we're getting Aikman. We're doing all this kind of stuff. We're moving over. And it changes this. But when you have somebody like Bill Bidwell come in and say, hey, I don't know how to build a winning team. I mean, I can do a profitable team, but not a winning team.
Yeah.
Do you ever encounter that where you see that in your businesses and say, look, I can't help you, or here's what needs to change, or you just say no to the business?
Yeah, I mean, I probably get contacted, 10 times a week from somebody. Again, whether it's public or private, I turn most of the business down just because, there just isn't the chemistry on the phone, or if I meet with them, I just don't have a feeling that, again, that they can execute, that they can actually do what they're saying they can do. They don't have the proper team around them. So there's no point in me taking them on as a client if I don't feel I can do them any good, because no matter how great I do my job, they're going to fall and they're going to fail because they can't do their job. So what's the point in taking them on as a client when we both look bad in the marketplace? So I turn down more business than I accept just for those reasons.
Right. So what, clients that experience management, that have been in the business before, have traction, they're executing, over 5 employees with revenue, could be profitable, not profitable, could be private, public. And what they say, I need Michael Brett Jr.'s services. Well, how long? I tell you, I'm going to hire you. What does that cost? Are you dependent on the size of the revenue? And it's like a consulting fee per month? Tell me a little.
Yeah, my basic fee is $4,500 a month plus equity. If the company's public, I like a little upside. Now, I have to bring this out as a caveat. I don't work on success fees, commissions, performance, or anything like that, because the SEC doesn't allow it. Right. The only people that, and I know you know this, but I need to get it out there for everybody else. Okay, I charge $4,500 a month as a cash retainer plus equity in the company to provide my services. Whether it's radio interviews, podcasts, email, social media marketing, conference calls, etc. And I don't take any kind of commissions. If the company does raise money, I don't take any commission, because only licensed broker-dealers and placement agents can get a success fee or a commission. I know there's this myth that's out there. I see it and I hear about it all the time that, we don't pay anybody unless they perform. Well, that's fine as long as you're dealing with a broker-dealer. If you're a licensed broker-dealer, then you can do that. But if you're dealing with anybody else, I don't care if you're dealing with an attorney, a CPA, they cannot take commissions or success fees for introducing you to money. It's illegal. The SEC is very strict on that. So the marketing services I provide, I don't raise the capital for clients. The client raises the money based on the introductions and the marketing that I do for the client, the videos that I put together, the email. So again, on my marketing, that's when I charge a basic fee of $4,500 per month to do the interviews, to introduce them to clients, to do the road shows, everything to get them the exposure to the capital markets. That's what my job is. It's the client's job to sell their deal to a broker, to an investment bank, or a private placement, a placement agent, and close the financing. And again, I have to repeat, there's that myth that's out there that you can just helter-skelter send a business plan or anything out to anybody, tell them, bring some money to the table and we'll pay you 10% commission. It's illegal.
Yeah, I know. That's actually a big faux pas, because
yeah,
if your investment goes south, these shareholders can sue. And if there wasn't a FINRA broker contract agreement signed, you're going to be personally liable.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And absolutely. And even the broker-dealers, even though the FINRA broker-dealers don't work on just a success fee, I deal exclusively with broker-dealers. Every one of them charges, a retainer plus expenses plus 5 to 7 points on the back end if they bring it in. That's just standard in the industry. There's nothing unusual about that. They all do it. And again, that goes back to your original question. Do they need to have revenue? Yes, because if they don't have revenue, they can't retain the bankers and retain me in order, to do the job. So that's why I don't deal with startups.
We're going to conclude it up, but mostly your advantage is having done this for 25 years, building a great list of individuals that you can go to and say, hey, I've got a great deal. You should look at it. And then you turn it over. You put the two parties together and they give their pitch and investors decides to invest or not.
Correct. That's perfect. And that works with public and private companies. I have a couple of public companies, AbTech, which it's a mobile payment technology company in Carlsbad, California. And I have another public company out of Canada, PharmaGreen, that's in the hemp growing. And, they've retained me for, again, all my services to, explore different avenues for them. And, that's what I do. And that's been my success story for all these years.
Great. Well, I want to wrap up the call here, and I want to appreciate Michael Brett Jr.'s time. Thank you very much for explaining what an investor relations do. If you want to reach out to Michael Brett, you can find him on LinkedIn. And I'm going to give you an opportunity, Michael, to give your information, your phone number, your website, and your LinkedIn right now.
Okay. My telephone number is 951-236-8473. My email is mikebrett@gmail.com. Again, that's Mike Brett, BRETTE @gmail.com. And you just go to LinkedIn, put my name in, Michael N. Brett, JD, Juris Doctor, and you come up with my LinkedIn profile.
Great. Michael, thank you very much for your time. Let's talk soon.
Good, John. Thanks a lot.
All right. Cheers.